morning, Becky. Hi, Jacob. Hi, Christina. Good morning. I hope you're on. I got some music in the background. Oh, shit. I'm going to get in trouble, aren't I? Am I going to get in trouble for having this music on in the background? I didn't put I don't own the music. Am I going to get in trouble for this music playing? I don't think anybody is here yet. I've gone away. Good morning. I do not own the rights to any of this music. I do not own the rights to any of this music. And I will include that. Okay, well, I won't monetize. I won't monetize this session anyway. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Well, I don't particularly want to monetize. Okay, good. Yes, the Doors are playing. It's my playlist, but I can't shuffle play my playlist. I have to play it in order. If there's a copyright claim. And there won't be a copyright claim as long as I say I don't own the rights to the music, right? There should be a bunch of copyright claims by the time this is over. Is the music too loud? Yeah. Till the heavens starts to rain, I'm gonna love you. Sky calls from the sky for you and I. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it playing. Is it too loud in the background? Should I turn it down a little? I feel like I'm talking louder because I'm trying to talk over it. But if you can hear me okay. Also, Eric Clapson. Can you hear me okay over the music? Then I am not afraid. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to turn it down a little then. Just a smidge. She said, what was that promise that you made? That's a little better. You can still hear it, but it's not like the whole broadcast is just about the Doors, right? I just want a little music in the background. Yeah. I love the Doors. I love the Doors because my older brother... I got your message and I replied to it, Becky. I replied more than once, actually. I went through all of my tags. I spent like a half an hour going through everything that I'm tagged in and didn't find anything from you, so if that's what you're talking about, I don't know, I get so many. Anyway, so how's everybody doing? Yes, it is already light here. It was dark when I got up. Yes, Meg Ryan is an ornament. Oh, yay, Christina. Story time. That's right. When we left yesterday... Oh, yesterday. Oh, God. Oh, here's my song. Waiting for a train. I was feeling half as faded as my jeans. Bobby flagged a diesel down for rain, the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon from my dirty red bandana. I was humming soft while Bobby sang the blues. Windshield wipers keeping time, I'm holding Bobby's hand in mine. We sang every song that driver knew. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing ain't nothing, honey, it ain't free. Yeah. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when he sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby McGee. La-da-da, la-da-da-da. Kentucky coal mines to the Colorado sun. Bobby held the secrets of my soul. Okay, we don't need to sing this song. Kind of river. Do I like Randy Crawford? I never heard of him. Bobby, baby, help me from the cold wind. One day in Saline, I let him slip away. He was looking for that home, and I hope he finds it. And I trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday of holding Bobby's body next to mine. Freedom's just another... Okay, now I'm all loaded. To lose nothing ain't nothing, honey. Anyway, let's go. Story time. When we left off yesterday, when he sang the blues, feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby McGee. Chris Hill, you know, with the way that Trump supporters are acting right now, running people off the interstates, crowding around them, blocking voting booths. Gonzo, you need to move your ass. I'm not going to spend the whole damn hour chasing your head. I'm really concerned about it. I really can't. I can't lie. La, 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 la. I really can't. I can't fathom Republicans being so emboldened to run Democrats off the road. Miss Deb, I'm trying. Anyway, yeah, get your bowl. Everybody get your bowls. Hey, 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 Bobby McGee. I love Janice too. Janice is like kind of a kindred spirit for me because she was from a small mean girl town in Texas where the debutantes and the junior league run the fucking show. And if you don't like dressing up like a debutante and going to the junior league and plaiting makeup all over your face, and then you're not anything. I mean, her little town in Texas told her to go away and don't come back. Yeah, if you get quiet, you get story time. Hi, Ghost Toast. Nice to see you. Anyway, I sing good, but I don't sing good enough for the For You page. That's Laura Winehouse's job. I don't sing that good. Anyway, let's get on to story time. We are going now that the Janice song is over. Oh, I'm sorry. It's playing in order, so we're going to get to hear all of Janice. That's on my playlist. Right now we're singing, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make it. Anyway, I'm going to have to turn that music down or all I'm going to be doing is singing. Exactly, Sue. They must be A-okay with all of his behavior. A color T. I'm going to have to turn that down or I'm just going to sing. $4 is trying to find me. I wait for delivery each day until 3. So, Lord, Won't you buy me a color TV? Everybody now, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercy on the town? Okay. Hopefully I can resist singing. Hi, Jess on TikTok. It's actually my nightgown. It's not a dress, it's my nightgown. Okay, here we go. You ready for story time? Cock with a Glock. Hello! Most Trump supporters, they use every excuse possible to excuse his behavior. Okay, I wonder, how do I turn chat off so I can't see people's comments while I am in story time? Right now, it just takes over my whole damn screen, and I can't ignore them. Oh, that's good, Becky. We both had Aquarius rising. Maybe that's why we're kindred spirits. Okay, I'm going to scroll up so that when you chat... Oh, no! Shakira! Might sound to you a bit odd, but you hold the place. Oh, where my heart goes hiding, right under your clothes, is where I'll find them. Okay. There's no live chat button. I don't have a live chat button. There is not one. There's no live chat button. It's not. I hit every button. I've tried swiping. Swiping doesn't work. I'll just scroll down. It will pop up when somebody says something, but I won't see it. So I can just talk, tell my story. So when we let off, I have to shut that music off. When we last talked, I'm not going to sing the song. I'm not going to stop and sing the song. I'm going to turn that fucking music off. Reach out underneath your clothes. There's an endless story. There's a man I chose. That's my territory. And all the things I deserve for being such a good girl, honey. Underneath. Okay, now I can focus. I'm so sorry. Sorry, that music was nice, but I can't not sing to certain songs. So, anyway. So, when I last stopped talking, I had gotten to Utah, Dugway Proving Ground. My sister had her baby. She rescued me from my mother. And as soon as I got there on a Saturday, on Monday, she went in the hospital to have her baby. And on Monday night, they called my brother-in-law and told him that she was in trouble. When he got to the little hospital in Dugway, actually it was Tooele. The hospital where she delivered the baby was in Tooele, Utah. And so when he got to the hospital, she had died, and they resuscitated her because they hadn't watched her after she had the baby, and she laid there and bled to death. Now, I know from having had a baby that they check you every 15 minutes. Because we know that hemorrhaging can happen. So that's why we check people. But this little hospital, the nurses didn't ever check on her. And so she died. They revived her and took her to the Salt Lake City. And that was on Monday night. They revived her. On Tuesday, we spent the day at the hospital while they tried to save her. They had to do an emergency hysterectomy on her. And they thought that, they weren't sure that she would survive the hormonal changes of a hysterectomy. They said that she could have a complete nervous breakdown or be mentally ill because she was too young to have a hysterectomy. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but those were the things that we were told, that because she was so young, she could possibly lose her mind because she puts through menopause that fast, a shock to her body. Anyway, they did the hysterectomy on her. And her heart stopped 2 more times while she was in surgery. So after they finished the hysterectomy, they had her in ICU. And her heart stopped a couple more times in ICU. And so they did a brain dead test on her and determined that she had a brain death. So on the way home from the hospital, a neighbor took me home from the hospital. She was still in the hospital. I got to stay there on Tuesday. On Wednesday, a neighbor took me to pick up my nephew Donnie and my sister's purse and her personal belongings that were left at the hospital. And I brought him home from the hospital as a newborn, as if I was his mother. My original intent when I moved to Utah was to go back to high school and settle down and stop being this rebellious person and help my sister take care of her kids. But she died. So we had to fly her body back to Texas. My dad flew with her, and my brother-in-law's mother came. And my brother-in-law and his mother and I drove their car from Utah back to Wichita Falls, actually Holiday, Texas. They decided they were going to bury my sister next to my grandpa. So we flew her back to Wichita Falls and had a funeral in Holiday, Texas, and all the family came to Holiday, Texas to the funeral. That's the first sign that I had that my family was incestuous as a youngster, because I was 16. My cousin Wendy was 13. If I was 16, she's about 3 years younger than I am. And I caught her and my brother having sex while we were at my grandmother's house for my sister's funeral. And at the same time, she told me that my sister's husband also tried to have sex with her. Now, my cousin Wendy, her father was my father's father. His name was Lester, and they called him Uncle Mo. I mean, we called him Uncle Mo for short in my family because we knew he was a freak, okay? So I think that the reason that she was so loose as a youngster is because she told me later in life that he'd been abusing her. My Uncle Lester had been abusing her. But anyway, she and my brother had sex. That was, to me, that is also a traumatic event in 1977, because I don't think I've ever gotten over the fact that he had sex with my cousin. And now that I'm an adult, I mean, he was out of the military, so he was like 23. I don't know, he went in the military when he was 17, so he was probably 20, 21. My cousin was 13. And my adult brother-in-law tried to hit on her too. And she cried and said that my adult brother-in-law had hurt her. And then after the funeral, while we were there at the funeral, I remember everybody giving me the baby and waking me up in the morning to go feed the baby like I was its mother. They were preparing me to go home with my brother-in-law and take care of the baby. But they decided that my brother-in-law was going up to Michigan because that's where his family was from. And he was going to go to Michigan and stay for a month, take time off, because he just lost his wife. He was a civil service employee at Dugway Proving Ground in Utah. And so it was decided that I would ride with my sister and brother-in-law back to Norfolk, Virginia, and then ride with my sister. My brother-in-law had to go out on a cruise because he was in the Navy. And my sister and I would then pack all of her belongings at her house and move them up to Massachusetts. They were going to move to Massachusetts while my brother-in-law was deployed in the Navy. So we did that. We drove across country. While we were driving across country, my brother-in-law, who was probably close to 30, was hitting on me every time my sister was out of the car. I resisted, but you know, it's just fucking gross. It's really gross. Anyway, so we drive all the way across country. Now, don't forget, I have at this point in 1977 gone from Texas to Virginia, back to Texas, up to Colorado, back to Texas, up to Utah, back to Texas, and now I'm going back to Virginia. And this is, by now we're in middle of October of 77. Back to Virginia, got my sister's stuff, drove up to Massachusetts, which is my mother's family was from Massachusetts, and my grandpa was sick. So they were going to move up to Massachusetts because my grandpa was sick and blah, blah, blah. So we moved all of our stuff up to Massachusetts. Now we're in early November. I think I stayed there through Thanksgiving, meeting my Massachusetts family for the first time. And then towards the end of November, and I'm sketchy on the date, but one thing I know for sure is that I did not have Thanksgiving in Utah. So I'm thinking it had to be end of November, beginning of December. They put me on a bus in Massachusetts, and I had to go across country on a bus in Massachusetts up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I rode the bus across country, and in Detroit, I had to change buses. So I had a layover there. I ate a little bit, and I went out to, they called my bus boarding. I went out to, it was in the evening, because I didn't get to the UP until the middle of the night, like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's the early hours of the next day. So it was like maybe around 8 o'clock in the evening. I was standing in line for the bus. I'm all by myself, traveling across country, standing in line for the bus, and there was a black man in line in front of me. He was an older black man. He had a long overcoat on and a cast on one leg, and he was on crutches. And he also had a full carton of Kool cigarettes. And he was struggling to hold on to that carton of cigarettes and keep, the carton had come open. And anybody who is a smoker, you know that once the carton comes open, the packs just fall freely out. Once the carton's open, the packs just do not want to stay in the carton. And that's what he was doing. He was struggling with his carton of cigarettes. Hang on a second. My dog wants out. I'll be right back. So he's there with his crutches. He's an older man. I think he had a little gray hair. And he was trying to balance his carton of cigarettes without losing his crutches. Anybody's ever walked on crutches, you know it's hard. So I don't know if his loss of balance or, he seemed unstable, but it could have been because he's an old man with on crutches. He didn't look homeless. His cast wasn't tattered and dirty like it would have been if he had been spending time outside. It was like a new cast. And he was in line to take the bus to the Upper Peninsula. And a Detroit transit cop came out of nowhere and grabbed him by the arm, grabbed his crutches, and drug him across the platform, opened a closet door, shoved him in, and started beating him with a billy club. All I could see was the door was open, and I could see his arm with the billy club come into view and go down on the guy. Bam, bam, bam. I was in a line of about 10 people, not a long line, but about 10 people. Nobody said anything. Everybody saw it. Nobody said anything. He was swinging that billy club against that black man. The whole time that the line moved and I got boarded, handed in my ticket, and got on the bus, billy club still swinging. Made my way back to my seat, billy club still swinging. Watched as the bus pulled away and the fucking billy club was still swinging. I think that along with the cops' behavior in the summer is probably where my deep-seated mistrust of police really started. The reason that I am so willing to accept the fact that there is systemic racism in the police department is because I've seen it. I saw that man get beat. I don't think there's any way he could have survived that beating. Not for that long. He was still being beat when the bus pulled away. I would really like to have an opportunity to go through cold cases maybe in Detroit and see if I can find anything that matches the description. I think the fact that he had a leg cast on would most certainly, but that was 1977, so we have no idea what what the death records show. But that is my third traumatic experience. I mean, not my third, it's like what, my sixth traumatic experience in 1977. 1977 was a particularly hard year for me. Um, I continued on the bus to the Upper Peninsula where my brother-in-law was waiting with his children, and I told people about it, but nobody's ever, I've told people about it my whole life, and because seeing something like that, I mean, that black man didn't do anything wrong. He did nothing wrong. He wasn't reaching for somebody else. He was just struggling to hold on to his cigarettes, and he had a broken leg and a cast and crutch. It was just horrible. So I continued on to the Upper Peninsula, and just, my brother-in-law was there, and we drove the car. The next day, I stayed one day there, and then the following day, we got in the car and moved to Utah. And my brother-in-law worked, and I took care of the children. But I wasn't very good at taking care of the children because I didn't know how. I mean, I really didn't know. I didn't know how to be a good parent. I had seen a lot of people. My sister Agnes was not a good parent. My mother was not a good parent. Any of the children that I had seen in my actual nuclear family being taken care of, nobody was being taken care of appropriately, except for the children of my sister. No, Gonzo. Gonzo, stop it. Move your head. If you want to lay down like that, go get onto bed. Stop it. No. Go. Move. Scush over. No. Sorry. So I didn't know how to take care of children. I really didn't. I lasted, I think, until I got there at the beginning of December, and I think I lasted until like the end of January. And my brother-in-law had enough. I mean, I really wasn't appropriate. I wasn't the appropriate person to be taking care of children, even though I was 16. And my brain was fucked up at that point from all the shit I'd gone through in that year. And so in the end of January of 78, he sent me back to my mother. And then he started dating a bad woman, and she beat the kids and sent them to school with bruises. She believed that bruises were okay. So she sent my niece Kathy to school with bruises. And the kids got taken away from him. We called one day from Massachusetts to talk to him and the kids weren't there. They were in foster care. And so that started the beginning of their hell. Because I wasn't a good person, the kids ended up in foster care. Anyway, so ta-da! Now we have finished 1977. I can tell the story of the serial killer. That's that. I'm going to go back on the next episode, or actually I might talk about the serial killer now. What do you guys can talk now. Yeah. I was 16 when I saw the black man killed. So horrible. Oh, you guys are talking. I just didn't see it. That's about that. That happened in 1977. Yeah. Hate crime cold cases for black people would be righteous and scintillating. Be careful. I know. I don't care. I would do it. I would do it. If I could find a case that was similar and bring closure to his family and maybe reparations, because I saw it happen. I saw it happen. And I'm able to give enough detail about him and what I saw that I believe, right? It wasn't developed at 16. It's just not developed. But I hated to see what happened to her kids, to my sister's children. Anyway, I'm not going to cry, damn it. I didn't even smoke, did I? Oh, yes, I did. That's the problem. I get weepy when I smoke. No. What What are you talking about? Was that the daycare I owned? Was what the daycare I owned? Was private user. So somebody with the name private user. Let me tell you something about the daycare I owned. I did not own it when I was 16 years old, private user. Private user. I was not 16 years old when I owned the daycare. You come in here as private user. I was 16 years old in that story, private user. I was 16 years old in that story. You think I owned a daycare when I was 16 years old? Private user? Really? Really? You know, when you own a licensed daycare, it's part of public record. Right? It's part of public record. I'm just saying. Public record. I would love to do a book. I would really love to do a book. Well, you know, here's the thing is that year wouldn't have been so horrible. Oh, okay. No, I was talking about 1977 when I was 16 years old. Good. I'm glad, private user. I was just thinking, if you are trying to use it's public record. I was licensed by the state. I have none left, and all I had was my oldest granddaughter and memory of when she was 3, and now she's 10. You have none left. What? None of what you feel now was your fault back then. I know, but still. I did the best I could at 16 years old, but that is just a year of my long, long, long life. And until then, though I haven't talked about my childhood and why it, you know, it was like I was living, anyway. It was even, I think it was even more traumatic for a kid like me, having grown up the way I did, because my mother was just horrible. She was like a Stephen King novel, horrible. I'm so sorry, Deb. Thank you, Earth Groomers. Thank you, Diva Cat. So, but anyway, it was just, I don't know. I can talk about the serial killer today if you guys want me to. That was the beginning of 1977. I want to also do it. I can, if you want me to talk about the serial killer, I can tell that story again briefly. I don't mind, because we've got like a half an hour left. I like to keep it to an hour, but we've got a half an hour left in that hour, so I can tell you about that. Let me, I think my dog is asking to come in. Let me let him in real quick. Oh, no, he's not. Okay. So the beginning of 1977. I need a whole movie. I think I really do. I mean, because, yes, it's not recorded anymore. I'm going to, I can add that to the end of this one, and also I'm going to do another one where I do it in detail, because I had to delete the first one, so I'll do it in a real, not detailed way. Beginning of 1977. What ended 1977 was me seeing that Black Man beat. What began 1977 was I was living with my parents in Harker Heights, Texas, and going to high school in Killeen, Texas. And I was a stoner kid because, well, for many reasons, but, you know, when your home life is really bad, that's typically when you become a stoner kid. Anyway, I was a stoner kid, and I was going to high school. I was in the 10th grade, and down the street from the high school was a bowling alley, and we were able to elect to do bowling instead of PE. or for our PE class, they would let us do bowling. And so in 7th period, we would walk down to the bowling alley and take a bowling class. And then we were supposed to walk back to school for 8th period, which was science, which I never went to that class. I really fucking hated that class. Anyway, so after, I was hanging out with some girlfriends who were also stoner girls, and my friends knew some army guys who had a car and weed. And so we decided that we're not going to go back to 8th period. We're going to go with these army guys who have weed that my girlfriends are friends with. So we hop in their van, white. I don't know if you remember when the first conversion vans came out, but it was real popular for them to have like a teardrop window in the back. And so they had this white van with a teardrop window, conversion van. Hopped in the van and went to their house, which was a little duplex, and Colleen has like a lot of little dingy duplexes all over the place that are, army guys typically live there because they're cheap. Go over the little duplex and hang out and smoke pot, chill, blah, blah, blah. And then when it came time to go home, they would give us a ride home and drop us off at the bus stop, just like we'd gotten off from the bus. So we could just walk to our house and nobody would be the wiser that we hadn't been in, that we didn't come home from school. It was just a couple of hours, So at the same time, there was a kid in my history class that I kind of had a little bit of a crush on. He was just a little bit. He was a new kid. He just came in as a new kid. And when he came into class, he always leaned back in his chair like this with his legs stretched out and, his head down. And something about that caught my eye, and I used to just stare at him. I was real shy, though, so all I did was kind of look at him, But I do remember, thinking, oh, my God, I really like him. He seems so cool. So the second day that we went with the army guys, we only went with the army guys twice. One day we went to their duplex and smoked and hung out, and then they took us home, and no big deal. And then the next day they came back to the bowling alley and they had more weed and, and they said, come on. And we were like, okay, we're going. Yeah, that's cool. And we went over to their house and smoked weed. I was real shy, especially when I smoked. I mean, I like to go smoke, but I was real shy and I would get real paranoid. So I would just sit in a chair by myself and not talk to anybody, just watch everybody. And the kid from my history class that I caught was kind of cute came in. And he sat about 3 feet away from me in a chair opposite me, kind of catty corner. And I thought, oh, wow, look, he's here. Holy shit. I wasn't expecting him to show up. And so I'm looking at him, and he pulls out this knife that is about, I don't know, 16 inches long, 14 inches. It's his biggest knife. I have never seen one this big in person since. It was huge knife, thick blade. So it didn't scare me, though, because my brothers liked to. No, it was a hunting knife. It was a hunting knife. It wasn't a machete. It was straight, and it was like this long. It had a big handle on it and a thick blade. Anyway, I'm in the middle of a story time, Leslie. So anyway, he pulled this knife out, and he was looking at me. He took the knife, wham, threw it in the floor. So it stuck in the floor, and then he looked back at me, and he stared at me while he reached down and picked up the knife. When he got back up again, he threw it in the floor, and then he'd look up at me and stare at me while he reached down and picked it up. Just doing that repeatedly. And I didn't feel a bit of fear because my brothers used to throw knives and stick them in the floor all the time. I even remember trying to throw like a Michael Myers knife, right? I remember trying to throw a knife and stick it in the ground, and it ended up sticking in my foot. So, really didn't alarm me that he was throwing a knife. But the army guys Said, okay, it's time to go. It's time to go. Let's everybody get out of here, and kind of hustled us out. Put us in the van, took us home, just like the day before. I walk home. It was a Friday. Next day, on Saturday, right? His name was Bernard Ferguson. My ex-husband's name is Bernard too. So I really pick them. I know how to pick them. Let me just tell you, I know how to pick them. So we get home, and the next day is Saturday. And I'm sitting in the living room floor next to the couch, and my dad is laying on the couch, and we're watching the news. And the breaking story on the news, the lead story on the news, was murderers of local convenience store clerks caught. And we're watching, and the camera slowly pans, and you see the van. And I'm like, oh, wow, that looks like the van I was in yesterday. That looks like so-and-so's van. Wow, And then it slowly pans some more, and you see the duplex where I've been hanging out in the daytime. The killers are the people I've been hanging out with in the daytime. Actually, the robbers were the army guys. They were AWOL. And the murderer was the kid from my history class with the knife. When he was sitting in his chair, throwing that knife and sticking it in the floor, he had murdered somebody with it the night before. And they went out that night and murdered somebody else. So between seeing him with the knife and getting to see them on the news, they killed one other person. They had already killed one person, and then they went out and killed another person. And the next day, on Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, they were being arrested on TV. So I had to reach out and I kind of sat there with my jaw dropped, like, I reached out my hand while I was still staring at the TV, and I patted my dad on the arm, and I was like, Dad, we need to talk. We need to talk. You want to come in, Winston? Come on. Come on, Bubby. I need to get you fresh water out there. I am not doing a good job. I need to dump all those rain buckets because they got bacteria in them, and get you fresh water. Go lay down. Go get somewhere. Go on. I'm still live. I'm sorry. I know it No. Go on. I love you. I do. You're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. We're going to eat in a minute. Go lay down. I'm cooking it. Go on. Okay. So anyway, that was the start of 1977 for me. My parents freaked out and decided they didn't want me testifying. So they sent me to Norfolk, Virginia to live with my sister. And you have seen the rest of the videos. He was found guilty of murder, and he was found to be a sociopath that had no remorse at all. And if he had made it to the third one, he was planning the third murder. If he had made it, he would have been considered a serial killer. He was given the death penalty, which later got commuted to life in prison. If you Google him, his name is Bernard Ferguson. And if you Google Bernard Ferguson, Texas murder, you'll get to see one of his appeals where he represented himself and retold the story in great detail of one of his murders. It's like he was a serial killer that when you read the appeal, you can tell that the whole point of the appeal was just to relive the murder and get to say all of that in front of all of the people in the courtroom. It really wasn't, he didn't have a stand a chance in hell of winning that appeal, but he just wanted to relive it and put it in people's faces, I'm sure. But because he was a minor when he committed the murders, see, he was in high school. I was in 10th grade. He was in my class. Because he was a minor when he committed the murders, Human rights activists fought for him and got it commuted to life without parole. And he just died in May of 2020 of COVID. Yep, that was my first event of 1977. And it ended with me seeing that black man beat. So there you go. There's the serial kill story. Oh, am I not seeing the comments again? Right? Yeah, it was a traumatic. Thank you, Christina. I really have. What did your dad say now he knows you were not in class? That was the least of his worries. Okay. Gonzo? No. No. If you want to stretch out, go lay on the bed. No, you can't knock my camera over. Stop it. You know, here, I moved it away from his head. Now watch. In 5 minutes, he's going to move his head next to it again. But he knew me not being in class was, me not being in class was the least of his worries. He was terrified that I had an encounter with a serial killer while he thought I was in school. I mean, can you imagine finding out that not only was your daughter cutting school, but while you're working, she's hanging out with a serial killer? Okay. I just can't imagine the stress that he must have been under. My mom wasn't under any stress. She didn't give a shit. Oh, you're welcome, Mystery. But yeah, that is, you can Google him. He just died of COVID in prison. Yep. Anyway, that's the end. The end, 1977. You know, it was just, I was so lucky that I made it out. There has been a guardian angel watching over me my entire life. I mean, there is no reason I should be here right now because I have so many stories like that. It's crazy. Good morning, Mimi. It's nice to see you. I'm almost at the end of story time. His name is Bernard, B-E-R-N-A-R-D, Bernard Ferguson, F-E-R-G-U-S-O-N. And you have to Google murder in Texas. Bernard Ferguson, murder, Texas. And you'll see both the story of him dying of COVID, but also... Oh, you've been watching this whole time? Well, thank you for waiting until I'm done to say hello. But, yeah. So, that's 1977. I think if I told those stories in great detail, they would make up a book. It's crazy, Becky. They have really protected me my entire life. So maybe it's so that I can be here and witness to everybody on these platforms to not only reveal some of the horse shit that goes on in the world, because I intend to be fully honest and truthful. You know, it's disgusting, some of the stuff that I have witnessed and experienced, and I think that the hard truths that we need to talk about are the things that will really ultimately result in affecting the most change. And I'm so proud of the youngest generation because they are so good at talking about the hard things. They're much better at talking about it than my generation was. But that's that. I think that the part about, you know, how bad my home life was is what makes my survival even more remarkable, because of how damaged my mother was. You know, I went to I dropped out of school halfway through the 10th grade. But I went to one school from the first to the fourth grade, one school. And then I went to school from the 4th to the 10th grade. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 6 years. I went to 12 schools. Because we moved every time the rent came due or the house got dirty. Because my mother never cleaned. So once we were the family that moved into the house and completely trashed it, and then moved out in the middle of the night. And because there wasn't, I used to say that the reason there is a credit system in the United States where you have credit scores is because of my dad. Because back in those days, they didn't run your credit. They didn't have a way to run your credit. It was almost like I was an army brat, but I did not have any of the structure that comes along with an army brat. So I was an army brat, but I had no structure in my life. Nobody ever cleaned in our house. Nobody ever washed dishes. Nobody ever cooked meals. Nobody ever, even cleaned up the dog shit off the floor. I mean, that's, I think, why maybe the story about Grey Gardens strikes me so much, because they live like my sister lives. You have a few angels around you too. It's great to have it. They live like my sister lived, but the reason they live that way is because they were wealthy and nobody ever taught them how to clean house or keep, they always had servants to do all of the hard work for them, so they didn't know how to do it. That's why they live that way. I struggle every day with not slipping into that, but my sister lives like that. My mother lived like that, and that's how I was raised. She wet the bed every single day of her life, and she never once cleaned it up. She put a blanket over it, and then the next night she put another blanket over it, and the next night she put another blanket over it. And then when her bed got completely rotten with a big black hole in it, she'd come in my bed and start wetting my bed. Only she came in my bed and started wetting my bed in the 4th grade. And one morning I woke up in my bed, and I remember the first morning she spent the night with me, I remember waking up and just seeing her in my bed and hating her. Terrified, mortified that this monster that was my mother was now in my bed. And then I noticed she was awake. I was just laying there watching her, and I noticed she was awake. Her eyes opened. And then my bed got wet. So she was awake when she wet my bed. And that meant that all my life, the embarrassment and disgust and ridicule that I went through, having a mother who sent me to school smelling like piss every day, I became getting really angry at her at that moment, because she was deliberately wetting her bed. It wasn't that she couldn't wake up. She deliberately wet her bed. She got some kind of a weird, I don't know. I was in the 4th grade. I was in the 4th grade. Yep. My life was hell. No, I don't blame myself, but the lack of having a mother for a female in the 60s was so detrimental. If you can't do the things that a female are expected to do with respect of keeping your house clean and organized and blah, 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 then you are really vilified. And the reason I couldn't do any of those things is because I never knew how. And the reason that I never got help is because every time in my life that I have asked for help, I have paid a price for it. Oh, yeah, my mother. My mother. That was my mother, not my sister. That was my mother. That was my mother. Yep, that was my mother. Yep. And when she got sick, I needed somebody to take care of her. I was the one who did it. I made sure I didn't take care of her to the point where I would let her live with me, but I'm the one who flew back and forth and sat at her bedside. Hey! Winston, come! Right now! Gonzo, you're not going out there. Get up here. Come on, you're not going out there. Go on. Get somewhere. Get it back up here. Come on, get back up here. Go on. Winston! Come here. Gonzo, get somewhere. Right now. I'm not fucking kidding. Go on. You know what? My landlord has been closed down. Nobody has been in any of the businesses here. Hang on a second. I gotta get my damn dog in. Come on. Gonzo, hush. Come on. I mean it. Stop it. My landlord hasn't been here. I'm afraid he might be prepping for worried about what's going to happen for this election. He's a big Republican. You can get up there. Go on. It's your turn. You got your toy. My Winston loves his toys. Sit down. Thank you. You're welcome, Mimi. Well, you know, I mean, that was just, my life has been pure hell. Except for the last, actually, it's just been pure hell. And I have tried so hard to overcome all the things that I faced. Just doesn't seem to work. But I'm real thankful for this platform and this voice and you guys willing to listen to all my stories. And I'm hoping that they really do help. Oh, I have no idea how long you've been gone, Deb. How do I know what you missed? I told my mom I'll sell all her stuff and put her in her home before she brings negativity into my life, right? Well, I would not let my mother bring her negativity into my life, which is what, she was unmedicated. You know, she would have destroyed my life. Because, you know, that's just what we do. But I didn't let her into my life either. But all her life, I remember my dad telling her repeatedly that she was going to die alone because of her crazy. And so I made sure that my mother didn't die alone. And she probably didn't deserve that. I mean, she did deserve that. It wasn't her fault that she was mentally ill. She too lived a life of hell. She was a horrible mother. She was I mean, I remember starving one summer while my dad partied in California. I watched my dogs starve and die because my dad took a leave of absence and went to California. And my mother ate at work. And if there hadn't been like a pomegranate tree that grew in our front yard and neighbors that would pay us for like playing with their kids. There was an old man around the corner that would pay my brother and I for playing with his kid. And we would use that to buy stuff. Or we would, I mean, there was like, our dogs starved. I mean, they died under the house. Only one dog survived out of the 5 that we had. It was a bad summer, you know. That was a really bad summer. Yeah. She wasn't a good mother at all, not even for a minute, but nobody deserves to die alone because they're crazy. Just because you're crazy doesn't mean you don't have a heart. Oh, because it was the 60s, honey. It was the 60s, Becky. Kids didn't get taken away in the 60s. Hell, I remember one time my mom got arrested. And all 5 of us kids, the whole time she was locked up in the jail, getting to eat, by the way. She got to eat while she was in there. I remember being a little jealous because she got out of jail and came out and told us about getting to eat in there. And I was jealous because we really weren't fucking eating. And Yeah, she came out. We were all 5 kids in a car in the jail parking lot for like 8 hours with no drink, no food, no nothing. Afraid to get out of the car because we were in the police department parking lot while she was in jail. Kids were, I mean, nobody, you have 12 of them for a reason. You can lose one or two and still get by. Oh, she ate beans and cornbread. She was happy about it. She got beans and cornbread. We would have been real fucking happy to get some beans and cornbread, honey. We would have been happy to get some beans and cornbread. Trust me. I remember thinking she got to eat. She was saying, oh, they served us beans and cornbread. And I thought, I would like to eat beans and cornbread. When you're starving, see, there weren't food stamps back then. There wasn't any kind of medical insurance for children that were parented by poor and ill-equipped parents. There were 7 children from my father. One of them was from another woman. So there were 6 between my father and my mother. And when my mother was pregnant for me, when my mother was like 2 or 3 months pregnant for me, they had 5 children, and they were expecting me. The youngest child, this is a cool little story. There wasn't help in Texas, or my parents were too proud to get it. Either my parents were too proud to get it, or there wasn't help. Whatever the case was, we didn't have it. But there were 5 kids, and the youngest one was 3. All the kids contracted a bad stomach virus. And this was in 1960. All the kids contracted a bad intestinal virus. They were all at home. My mother was trying to give home remedies. My dad was on the road as a truck driver. And my grandmother was telling my mother how to treat us, and instead of taking us to the doctor. And 5 kids were in the house. The little one died in bed beside my brother, my oldest brother. The little baby of the family died in bed beside my oldest brother. All 5 kids were sick. 2 ambulances came to the house. One to take my little brother, my big brother. He would have been my big brother because my mother was pregnant for me. But one to take the baby of the family to the morgue. And the other one to take the rest of the kids to the hospital. So they lost, and evidently that child, his name was Timothy, he was like the best little kid. They all just freaking adored Timmy. He was funny and smart, and he just kept them all entertained. He was their baby brother, and every one of them adored him. And so 6 months later, my mother had me, and there was no child investigation or abuse charges or investigation. Why did an ambulance come? Why did 2 ambulances come, take one to the hospital and the others to the morgue? In today's world, my parents would have both gone to jail. But back then, there wasn't such a thing. I don't even think there were child protective services in the 60s. I don't really know for sure. But 6 months later, my mother had me, a baby girl, and brought me home from the hospital. Maybe so. Maybe I have some of Timmy's soul. But brought me home from the hospital, a newborn baby, and handed me to my siblings and said, here you go. You have a new baby sister. And they took all of their grieving for their baby brother out on spoiling me. Like, can you imagine losing your baby brother that everybody adored and then getting a new baby sister who was cute? I was so fucking spoiled. I mean, we were still really poor and had a horrible life, but we had each other. My siblings and I had each other, and they so spoiled me. No health care, no dental. It was just the way it was back then. And that is when Donald Trump came of age. So that's the life that Donald Trump and the Republicans are longing for. The life of the 60s, where black people are oppressed and kept in their place, and poor people are left to their own devices, and there's no socialized medicine, there's no socialized help at all. You're either a survivor or you're going to die or live a miserable life. That is the 60s, and that is the life that Republicans are longing for. No tax money goes to helping people. And if you don't survive as the fittest, then too bad. We need to beat back the knuckle draggers. That's right, back to the tar pits. They're fools. They really are, because eventually they will be the lower class. He passed in 92. You had a brother named Timothy that passed in 92. Well, let me tell you something. My half-brother that lives in Florida, we found out about him when I was 18, and his name is also Timothy. Because my mother was pregnant for her son, Timothy, at the same time that my dad's girlfriend was pregnant with her son, Timothy. So the baby of the family, Timothy, that passed away, that woman in Florida had a baby named Timothy the same age. What was that? It never had anyone describe it that way, but you're right. That's exactly what they're longing for. They're longing for the world of the 60s. And that's what Donald Trump is fighting for, to go back to the world of the 60s, because evidently that is where he was the happiest. I didn't do an Ancestry DNA test. I did a stupid 23andMe. People told me 23andMe was better, but it's really not. They didn't tell me shit. No. And they told me they're not even going to keep my results online forever. They don't even keep your results online forever. Either poor or rich, now no longer any middle class. That's right. There's not a middle class. The upper middle class became lower upper class, and the lower middle class became lower class. And there is no middle class. I know, right, Simon Green? I know it. It's really not. It's not the American dream anymore. There is no country that offers the world anything like what the American dream was sold as. There really isn't a country that offers that. But there are socialized medicine countries. The problem is that when you're a socialized medicine company, you can't afford a big defense. You know, you take that money from the defense budget and put it into socialized medicine. I really don't think we need to raise taxes to provide Medicare for everyone. We don't need to raise taxes to do that. We really don't. All we have to do is stop pouring billions into our defense budget. Billions. We need to slim down defense contracting companies that bid multi-million-dollar programs based on a certain number of people, engineers, to do the work. And regardless of how many engineers it ends up turning out to need to do the work, they hire the full capacity. It's called butts in seats. You end up with like 4 or 5 crackerjack engineers that really do the work, and the rest of the entire program are worthless engineers that get to sit there because that's what the company bid. I have seen that happen on every single program. Well, here's the thing. We can't control. We have to get our defense contracting budget under control. There's an enormous amount of waste there. An enormous amount of waste. You wouldn't even believe it. And those people that are wasting so much of our money are not our best and brightest. Okay? They're not even special. They're not even necessarily good people. But because they kept their life within the boundaries of what is required in order to get that kind of a job, they get rewarded with that kind of a job. But they're really not smarter. They're not brighter. They're just willing to pledge allegiance and keep their mouth shut. Keep their head down, stay under the radar, and clean up on tax dollars. Oh yes, I've been on here for an hour and 10 minutes. I need to stop because I don't want this to get too big. You're right. You right, Mimi? I'm starting to ramble on, and I don't want my story times to get bloated for talking about political. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. So I'm going to hang up here. I will go over to TikTok again and go live for a little while, not very long, because I have a lot of stuff I want to get done. But I don't want to make these story times about chit chat. So thank you so much for joining my live. Share with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. All right. I'll see you guys over on TikTok. I love you all. Thanks for joining.